Welcome back, everyone. 皆さん、お帰りなさい。今日は253日目です。Alright. It's day 253. We're the day before our leap day, so usually today, tomorrow is gonna be our burnout day, right? Looks like we're gonna attempt do it every 5 days from tomorrow. So we only have 5 reviews. The current ones, we have 85, so there's probably like 9 leeches. I'm guessing they're leeches from way back yonder when the routine was still kind of in flux for that type of thing. So probably 9 burnout items and then our current 76, right? This would be the most comfortable one. Day 3s, this would be the day 3 in the cycle. Or actually, I take it back. This is our second set, so this would be day 8, right? 8/9. And this should be the comfort cycle for the second set of stuff. So there are usually 2 sets. They're split into like 5.5 days. It's 5/5. Got that routine down. I can probably map it out a little bit better by the day 300 review, how the stuff goes, and then what we're adding or adjusting to it. But the addition of the burnout day is quite nice. It tells me, gives a way to output, right? Gives a way to output. And then maybe be a little creative of all the weaker things. Address weak spots. Today should be relatively quick. Let's hop right in. Nothing from yesterday. Usually reviewing days are pretty chill. Yesterday did have a few from blast from the past that we trip on, but we'll address those things in our burnout days. On our burnout days. Alright.
腕時計
Okay. I can't spell wrist? No, wait. Yes. Hmm.
進展
Inten. Uh,
述べる
Noberu.
Kabu
Abu. Okay.
そう
So,
審査
Insa.
差別
Habits.
自立
Delete. That's one of the burn items. How many did I say? Like 8? 8 or 9? So that's one of them. Wonder what they are.
都庁
Tocho. Tocho. Oh. Uh. What? Okay. This stuff is not that great. Oops, that's not it. What?
干潮
Oh. A typo. Sometimes I type sho instead of cho. Ancho. Oh my gosh. Stop.
一層
So, iso. Okay.
乗る
Yoru.
禁止
Inshi.
記載
Ai.
管理
Handy.
環境
Ankyo. Oops.
武器
Buki.
境界
Yokai. Yokai.
備える
Naeru.
祝日
Shikujitsu. Shikujitsu.
書斎
Yosai. Yosai. Oh, wait.
株式
Kabushiki.
典型的
Tenkei-teki. Tenkei-teki.
展開
Tenkai.
腕
Ude.
両腕
Ryoude.
本質
Onshitsu. Oh, wait. What's another way to say nature? Essence? Yeah, essence. That's right.
質
Tsu.
届く
Todoku.
同日
Dojitsu. That's another one. What are we up to? 3 or 4? Okay. Oops.
触覚
Shokaku. I don't know about that one. That one's very suspicious. Unsure.
規則
Shoku. Oops. This one's questionable too, in a long-term sense. Oops.
境
Sakai. This one was shaky on yesterday. Definitely shaky.
記述
Ijutsu. What? Oh,
展示会
Enjikai. That's another burn. We're about halfway there.
狭い
Am I?
祝う
Iwao. Okay.
警察庁
Keisatsu. Oops.
国境
Okyo.
.感触
Anshoku. Probably. Oh. Oh, maybe like
早口
Ayakuchi because no rendaku. Yeah. Special exception. Okay. That's another burn. Maybe like 2 or 3 more to go. Okay.
品質
Inshitsu.
Enshi
Enshi. Okay.
肩
Ata.
提供
Teikyo. Teikyo.
上述
Gyojutsu. Gyojutsu.
自動販売機
Jido-hanbaiki. Right. Never mind. Jihanki. Perfectly fine.
警視庁
Keishicho. 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 Boy, howdy.
武道
Udo.
交差点
Osaten. What? Keru.
化ける
Bakeru. That's a mix burn. Ba and ka are like bakeru and wakeru. That's a little bit of a mix because there's a mix of changing, substituting, altering, replacing, and then changing as in renewing, revising, like changing it up because you want to make it new versus changing it up by replacing. And there's so many versions, and it's like wa, like ka and wa all, ba, ka, all over the place. So this is a little sketch burn. That I feel like that's a little bit of a sketch burn, whereas it's a bit of a touch and go, without context sentences. Without context sentences.
武士
Let's see. Okay.
審判
Simpan. Simpan. Judgment and judge is a little sketchy too. Especially with the ban versus pan thing. Kind of feels like a Neen and Jean thing. Han and Dan can be that too. A bit as well. At the moment. Grain is... it's okay. It's come a long way. Come a long way. Whoops.
触る
What is... Wait. Oh. No.
明日
I'm like, 明日? Ashita. Ashita. That's a fine burn. It's okay. Sometimes it double takes without context.
良質
Yoshitsu. Okay. What? Oh,
資格
Shikaku. Oh, Shikaku is a little weird. Yeah, that's a little weird.
時差
Isa. Classic. Good burn.
販売
Hanbai. Bit off. Oh, I'm spelling sales incorrectly. English thing, so.
刺す
Kodomo.
子供
左腕
Hidari-ude. Now I'm pretty confident there isn't a right arm, just a left arm. Why is that the case? I don't know. Huh. Pipe. Oh,
管
Kuda. Shimon.
質問
Sumon, it's fine. What? Wait. Oh, whoops.
特質
Tokushitsu. Tokushitsu. Okay.
発展する、
変する。無視する。腰
腰、
腰あ、腰。
血管、
血管。Is this a burn? No. Oh, it's this. Oh, because of kan? Probably.
早く、
Ayaku is a burn.
型、
また。
通販、
通販。え。
起立、
起立。
指さす、
す。指さす。
原型、
原型。Yep. There we go. Pretty strongest days. Right? Strongest days. Day 3s and day 3s / 4s are the strongest days. No. Very reproducible. It doesn't help that it's an 11-day cycle. So I don't know where the extra day comes from. The 11-day cycle. It's kind of hard to get my head around. I still need to map it out a little, but it's usually around 4 or 5, day 3 or 4. And then there's a leap day. So tomorrow is the leap day, right? Because it takes 36 hours before. So the new unit comes out, or actually it takes about 48 hours, 48 hours before. So this is like 4 a.m. This is the group right here, 4 a.m. So under 48 hours, like 46 hours, right? I completed these just now at near 6 p.m. Oh. And then our leap days, which is day 4 or 5, we get to do burnouts. So we do our extra studies, and then our extra studies are non-redundant. They're non-redundant. We're going through them. I'm pretty sure the new stuff, if we burn new items, it gets placed on top of the stack, right? And we're getting into groove of doing that. So it's kind of my upkeep days. Yeah, burnout days are like my upkeep days. Kind of like running every once in a while. A really long while, because of physical stuff don't really move that quickly. You know, every 3 or 4 months I would do like a maximum distance run just to test where that the endurance is still there, and that's kind of what the burnout days are gonna be. There's right now, this is gonna be the first time we've done 2 burnout days during the first half, the first 5/6 days, and then the second 5/6 days. But I'm anticipating that it's gonna be like every other. The threshold is gonna be 20 reviews, so any day where we have below 10, which is this tomorrow and 5 days from then, those are the only opportunities in which we can squeeze in a burnout day, which is incredibly low effort, right? It's like low effort overall, but it's high effort if we have weak spots. So the idea of doing like burnout days or benchmark days, right? These would be the benchmark days. You benchmark to see if there are any little kinks along the days. When you're working on your stuff, it's harder to see the kinks because if you're working on the stuff, there's so many things going on. So you have like different limits, and that's a great way to create. You could call it a maintenance day. Like, what's your basal maintenance, or how hard can you push it without introducing anything new? So burnout days are anything new, nothing new. And when I mean nothing new, I mean nothing in short term. There are no things in short term here. And then on our normal practice days, like today, just a short term, right? This is day 4, 4/3 to 4, and we're still in short term. It's less than a week. All the stuff that we went through, except minus the 9, those are the burnouts, or the burned items. Everything is still in short term. And then midterm is part of one of the stacks. It often happens on these days. So there's a midterm here, 46. Large groups that are outside the cycle, like this is a 76 cycle, so then this 76 cycle is going to disappear and a new lesson is going to pop in, so it's not visible. All the short terms are not visible except for the day it's reviewed, and then everything else that's a peak that exists is mid-length stuff. And then burnouts, all the burnouts are the lowest of efforts possible because you're focusing on output. This is pure output. I don't expect to get stopped. And then those stopping points are where we just dump all our excess energy into, because the idea is dumping your energy into the little kinks. Like, what was the average? It's like we're still maintaining maybe 1 every 200. So every 200 items there's 1 stop. Since those things rarely get prioritized during regular lessons like this type of thing, it's great to dump and see how you can practice occasionally to solve long-term weaknesses, right? The way I'm going about it must, in my opinion, the way this addresses the one thing that I'm concerned about on how I do things, and that's there's no, like, we're not using this feature where they track mistakes based on time, because this isn't a time. I'm not treating this as a time thing. So you sit there, you get the answer. That's it. But those weaknesses have to be embellished in some way to reduce the amount of time, to normalize them. So coming up with a routine to evaluate, doing extra burns and then looking at little kinks allows one to create a routine to address those things. If they're super rare and you overlook them, then they, quote unquote, do the thing that most people say that you were worried about, which is you create a bad habit, and that habit will feel very, very bad often, often enough that because you're doing like 90% good, and then every once in a while that comes up and it feels like it's a bad habit that sticks out. And in my opinion, a lot of times the bad things stick out. They generally do. It's part of the human condition. They definitely stick out when you're doing a lot of good as well. So like 95% of the day went as planned, but the last thing you remember is the 5% that went not so good, right? And if it went bad, that 1% of your day that went bad, it'll highlight and proliferate. I think that's, in my opinion, evidence. Not that this is held universally true, but when someone constantly projects at another person and saying, oh, you're going to regret it, you're going to create bad habits, you're going to have to unlearn the bad habits, I think that's a great indicator of someone who avoids addressing those bad habits because they hope that they never have bad habits. And then because they avoid those bad habits, they don't know how to change them. And because they don't know how to change them or address them, they often project fear and concern whenever the possibility of a bad habit comes up. For myself, habits are habits. When you have control over them, then they're habits. They're neither bad nor good. They're something you either can use or change, or you can choose to avoid them. The nice thing is you don't have only one choice, which is to avoid them, right? And that's what we're doing here. We're constantly adjusting for, quote unquote, the weaknesses, however, actively addressing the weaknesses, actively running towards the weaknesses. The reason why I like this type of approach is that when you run towards something and then you oftentimes you can find acceptance, like, oh, it's not worth my time, versus, man, this really sucks, and you just avoid it, and every time it comes up it just sucks, right? There's nothing round about it. You don't feel like you have control over it. It happens and you can't accept it. The other, intentionally running at it, will allow you to say, well, I could be solving this problem, but man, do I have so many other like things to tackle that is so worth the time I would have sacrificed to do this one. And that is actively acknowledging that the thing exists. Avoiding actively, in my opinion, pretend like it doesn't exist. You can say, well, you know, I'm aware of this, but out of sight, out of mind situation. I think it's not everyone that does this, obviously. However, it can be, it's almost certain someone who spends more time telling someone and advising someone to avoid something that may happen the least amount, disproportionately the amount of times that they do something. Like, aren't you afraid that you're going to mispronounce this one thing that if I step back far enough, it would only occur like 2 or 3% of the time? That's the type of like perspective that would give away someone who spends a lot more time running away from the habits, using avoidant behavior, which it's the most cost effective, right? It's the most cost effective. And it does, if that person was saying, well, you know, I have this bad habit, but it only happens 2% of the time. So they understand that it's also not worth their time, which is perfectly valid. How they present it, if it's like the end of the world because your life is going to end because of something that happens like 2 or 3% of the time, then that is someone who avoids it. Someone who doesn't avoid it would say, well, you know, I wanted to note this. It can happen like 2 or 3% of the time, and it could make you feel really bad. So I just wanted to let you know that this may occur. That's someone who knows that it's not worth their time, but they still know it exists, right? And it could hurt other people. Right? Other people could be the devastated guy. So I think that's something that is very much worth investing some time to evaluate yourself for the individual. Generally speaking, most of my experiences, if they suck, you can avoid it by stop doing it. That's a great approach to save time if you have other more important pressing matters, right? Your priorities are your own. So when you say something sucks, ask yourself why you stopped or how you stopped it, right? I think I'm going to say conservatively 6 out of 10 times when I talk to people, their solution is to avoid it. And that's fair because language learning to them is a hobby, right? Language learning to me is a hobby. Learning is not. Learning is a lifelong skill that is obligatory. So whether I'm learning incorrectly, as some people would suggest a lot of times, and they mean by, in my opinion, they're specifically talking about the content is wrong. Like, okay, well, that's fine. I mean, like, I'll take the risks. I'll take the necessary risks. Is it 80% to, is it greater than 80% useful? Maybe. I mean, I'm lowballing here, right? Some people will say, well, it has to be 99.9% accurate. It's like, okay, I understand that. So I'll accept the consequences that I will have to consume different content to create convergent and synthesize more information, right? However, what they say about learning wrong, it's not the same to me. When you say you're learning wrong, it means there's something wrong with your learning process, not the content you're learning. Because facts change over time too. So like things that are theories can be laws, but laws determine how strong it is. It's a degree of accuracy, right? So while some people might be constantly concerned about doing the best way, because if it's not the best, it's the wrong way. Like, well, that's the content of it, in my opinion. The universal reason about learning is being able to synthesize and overcome those things, or address those things, like the acquisition of the information and integration of the information is part of the learning process. The way, the semantics of how you do them, in my opinion, has maybe some a lot of indirect ways that it will impact your learning process, but is rarely ever a commentary on learning itself, because you have to also learn how and why it's wrong, like the context of it. So the irony here is a lot of times when people say, oh, hey, you're learning something incorrectly, that comment, in my opinion, is to me a great indicator. I would say a slightly greater than 50% chance that person isn't talking about learning. They're talking about the information. The information is incorrect, not how they interpret it. Because for someone to openly say with full confidence that you are learning wrong, in my opinion, and that this is more of a snobbery, I guess, maybe I'm a little overzealous about the learning process. In order to say that is to trivialize how little attention, or demonstrate or reveal how less important it is that the learning part is first and not the content. So that's a conflict of interest, right? I have to understand this. I know that learning is not important to them. So if I start spouting out, oh, it's about the process, it's about the journey versus the goal, I would be in conflict with the person. So I have to be aware of that. And these are like a lot of the signs. Early signs are definitely when someone says you're learning wrong, you're learning the wrong way, and that would give away that this person has limited learning processes, because it's only possible to, in my opinion, it's very rarely it's rarely possible for someone who focuses on a process to trivialize it so easily. You have to have a small sample size to say something so confidently about anything, about most things, really. Like nuance is lost when you only have a small diversity, right? Echo chambers, for example. If one possibility is echoed disproportionately with all the information, without any new information coming in, then one can confidently say that's true. Now, there are rare situations where universally things agree, right? You universally agree, and those are probably what we call laws. And as the last time I checked, there wasn't a law of learning. Some people might there are some strong individuals out there who characterize some of the foundations that may constitute the closest thing to laws, but those foundations are not exclusive to a specific contexts. They are usually universal, so they are related underneath all of those things. So in fact, they don't exclude things, which makes it applicable to a lot of things. So saying something that's wrong is usually not a characteristic of something that is universally accepted as a foundation, like learning, for example. Learning, active versus passive learning. Active learning universally will likely yield higher encoding than passive learning. But this is nebulous. It applies to everything. So most things can be passive and active. That means that there's not any particular thing that is wrong or right, since it applies universally. So there's a paradox, a bit of a paradox between the two. If something is so fundamentally right or wrong, typically it's involved in most things that are of higher complexity. So what is learning? You have to have new information. That's a universal, right? If you're learning, new information's coming in. And then you're saying, well, if you keep repeating the same thing, there's no new information coming in. Like, well, no, not technically. Unless you yourself have discovered new connections while repeating the same thing. Right? The action, the context, the action is being repeated. But are you doing the same process? Right? Like looking at a movie, right? You watch a movie and then you convince yourself that if you watch a movie a second time, you would not notice new information despite the information staying static, right? The movie doesn't change. Like, the movie literally does not change. That is the wrong or right thing. It is right that the movie is going to be the same because it hasn't changed. It is wrong that you think the second watch is going to be the same as the first watch. That is violating one of the universals of the human condition, right? So there are comments that are right and wrong about certain things, but those things I feel aren't quite the things that people are referring to. Oftentimes when it come to right and wrong, it's about the context, the static context. So if you're sitting here saying, oh yeah, you know, I'm trying to remember the same information, then I can probably concede that you'll probably feel like it's the wrong way to do things over time. Because the last time I checked, despite all these characters being static, you yourself is not static. But you can try to make yourself static as much as possible. I mean, personally, I wouldn't recommend it. I would find that very grindy, right? People use the word grindy, boring, redundant, repetitive. You heard most of these words before for those who find it redundant. Do I find WaniKani redundant after over 270 days? I don't. Because I'm not really doing the same thing every day. Mechanically, I'm doing the same thing. Yes, for sure. Like the context, right? Like the static part that you focus on is the same. But there's rarely something similar going on in my head. So I just wanted to share that a little bit on these like more relaxing days. Largely due to the nature that learning process is complex. It's not to simplify, to constantly reduce the learning process is a choice. It's up to the user. How much can you handle in your learning process? Honestly, this is probably a little bit counterintuitive, but oftentimes complex things can become very simple things for humans because humans are wacky. Their brains are wacky. You can find that someone executes a 50-step process very rapidly through the practice and curation and refinement period than someone doing largely impractical 50-step procedure from the perspective of someone who can do it in a 10-step process, right? It's wacky world. So going around saying the learning process can be wrong and right, in my opinion, is an opinion. In my opinion, it's often an opinion. Passing it off as fact is, I think it's an oversight. I would be very hesitant, and I would be very hesitant to bank my money and my professional integrity or mutual respect with a stranger by starting off by saying, hey, if you're doing this, you're doing it wrong. So you want to do it the right way so you can guarantee your success. Because that is like 4 different statements that can't be true. Like, what I mean by it can't be true in the moment. Like, there's no way this person knows. Now, if it happens, that's great, but you can't rule out coincidence because the advice you're getting from that person is a projection of their own experience. So it's not like they were doing a deep dive on your own behaviors or something and they're giving you a projection that's likely going to happen. And even then, I'm saying it's likely going to happen. Getting someone to tell you that something is going to happen with 100% certainty, and then what you're doing is absolutely certain, and even more so, throw it in a stranger thing. I would be incredibly, I have my reservations, right? My responses, keywords that I will respond to this is, that sounds like a very bold statement. Can you explain more? I'll get back to you. I might implement some of your ideas and I'll get back to you what the results are. And that person, depending on their pride and arrogance, could be a little bit miffed and said like, what, you don't believe me? It's like, no, I don't. I don't believe, I rarely believe people who tell me they can predict the future in more words than that. So it's not a, and then, they would say like, well, that's disrespectful. It's like, I'm not trying to be disrespectful. I don't think I can predict the future either. I don't necessarily think most humans in the world are able to predict the future. There are things you can say with quite a lot of certainty, but even then, understanding the nature of it will have nuances. Like, I'll be alive tomorrow. Can you even say that? It's very difficult, at least in my opinion, if you have attachments to the nuances of being alive, right? I'll most certainly be alive tomorrow, I think. Right. Anyways, just a little bit of reflection on, I think about these things when I'm talking about like, what's the what's the point of reviewing stuff you already know, right? That's where the root of all this conversation is, the rant about the future being like learning wrong, learning right, and like having a FOMO or regrets and whatnot. Often it goes around things like this, where you have this vicious cycle of believing that you don't have to go over things that you've confirmed once or twice that you know how to do, because somehow the computer analogy has been taken literally to equate to the brain, and then and all that information about how the brain works somehow got muddled in the computer situation. So what happens is you never have to go over things you already know because there's no reason to. It's a waste of time. And to some, they have very cogent arguments when it comes to too many priorities. But for myself, I still benchmark most of the time. Self-evaluation, right? Self-evaluation. And different layers of self-evaluation. Okay. All right, let's go over our monics, right? Don, Korea, guess, system, or control. Actually, they use control, nature, except, guess star, right? Where I reads. On gaku, angaku, se, chiga, ki, yu, nen, shiku, ado, sema, kata, ude, hoshi, shoku, sai, sai, so, ke, sho, shi, sa, an, shin, shitsu, shitsu, shichi, kyo, kan, bu, mu. Wait, did I screw up? I think I did screw up. Shi, sa, kan, shin, shin. Kyo, no, not kyo. Ryo, and then this is kyo, kan, bu, mu. No, bu. Yeah, bu and mu. I think, no, it's not mu. It's something else. Oh no, it is. It is bu and mu. Okay, it's fine. I think there was somewhere here that I said shitsu. This is shitsu. Shitsu and shichi. Jutsu. Kyo. En. Han. Kabu. Right. Alright. That's a wrap for WaniKani today. Our WaniKani session. If you're gonna watch this later, arigatou gozaimasu, right? As always, feel free to follow along. Pick up WaniKani for yourself. Give it a try. I would love to hear how other people, you're more than welcome to come on by and tell me how you matriculate, iterate, standardize, and optimize, right? Always nice sharing some anecdotes, stories, exchange some ideas and strategies. Try to keep each other motivated. Some stuff to freshen up routines. Keep, the core of the routines, your foundations, and then iterating and innovating. Right. Until next time, for those who are only interested in WaniKani, minasan mata ne, mite kurete arigato, right? See you guys next time. Thanks for watching. I'm gonna get up, stretch, walk around a little bit, and I'll be back for my Hanzi Hero session. Thank you.